going back real quick to what you're saying about what you're putting up there, because that's one of my questions actually. Is it's kind of tough because unless you kind of explain what makes it different from the others, right? It's kind of I want to know for myself what it's doing that's different in order to, if I had to change up my system, which I already did, I might change up my AVR to try out, the upmixing. But it's kind of one of those things like I do want to know, have an idea what it's doing different. So maybe let's just approach it this way. What would you say, in your opinion, is the difference between what you're doing and maybe what DTSX is doing and Atmos, maybe what you don't think that they might be doing as well?
Yeah, I
Something like
think,
that?
let's say, what I didn't like on most of the competitors, let's say, technology when it's coming about upmixing, is that they change the artistic intent too much. Let's say it is very easy to make a better impression by changing the dynamics. You have a little bit more compression, so it comes a little bit more out of the speakers. It's getting louder, yeah. You add a little bit of tops to make it more like crisp and things like that. So they add very often as well too much reverb, yeah. So I feel, let's say, they changed the artistic intent to make a more overall, let's say, different impression, but often, let's say, especially nowadays where music is like compressed like hell already, when you have that on top of it, it even gives more distortion, yeah. So it is not easy, let's say, to find a solution, yeah, which is let's say staying as close as possible to the original while creating at the same time a very let's say impressive three-dimensional sound experience, yeah. Now, one of the things is very important is what is where, yeah. You see as well, and we are still working on it, we are still developing Auro-3D, yeah, and we are still finding new ideas, let's say, to isolate here and there certain sounds, yeah. Because what is important is that you have that, if you have, like, especially in music, you feel with music the instruments stay in front of you. It is not that you suddenly hear the instruments too much from the back, although if you put out the speakers you will feel there's a lot of it. But the moment when you have everything in the right balance, you don't feel it like the musicians are behind you, yeah. But the vocal, for instance, you do not want to have the vocal too loud at the back.
Right.
There might be some reflections, like in a normal natural room.
Sure.
Then you have as well reflections from the back. So we have to define all these kind of reflections, which are then using information from the original recording. What's there about reflections and things like that. Now, and about height, we have different technologies that we used, and you cannot, it's very, that's something that not many people know, yeah. But reflection patterns in a room, let's say they have a very specific way of how they are getting reflected. And the Galaxy Hall is a very famous hall, and it is seen as one of the best, let's say, rooms when it comes up to reverb. That research of that hall was even used for certain patterns in our Auro-Matic upmixing algorithm. It is not that we use the hall, we use, let's say, the reflection, certain capture, and that is, let's say, mathematically calculated, but based on certain patterns, and those are things that we patented as well, yeah.
Okay, because like let's say back in the old school Dolby Pro Logic days, the surround was kind of extrapolated out from the left and right channel and the difference, the L minus R, and then they added some delay. So it was all just kind of extrapolated from what was already there. They weren't really adding too much to it. So I'm just kind of wondering if it's something like that. I know I'm probing, but I really want to know like what is happening up there and what's the difference. Just kind of get a better idea. How about this? When you're upmixing, you don't know the original space. It's not like there's some metadata there that says this is the space, so this is the amount of that you need. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is like, how are you figuring out what the reflection should be if you're outdoors? That's kind of like pseudo anechoic. Maybe you're not going to hear as much reflection.
Yeah.
So
the algorithm is taking into account that kind of stuff, yeah. And the way it works, because there are like different models that we use depending on the kind of material that comes in, yeah. So what I can do, Joe, I can send you like more a technical, because if I start to go into the technical detail here, I think a lot of people will not be able to
Okay.
follow the discussion. Yeah. So what I think is I can send you something of the whole team here. I will share with you a document
Okay.
where you see more about, let's say, the concept, the different technologies that we use in that space. Yeah. And then you have already the ingredients, but of course then there is the balance and the whole kind of way it works in that algorithm. But you have an idea which kind of analyzing and techniques are working in it, how it is being matrixed and all that kind of stuff. So there is much more information in that. The moment when you read that, I think you will start to understand better what's technically in such a technology involved. Yeah.
How about a simple question then? Can you make a sound larger than the space it's in? So I'm confined to a 20 by 20 room, ceiling height.
You make it seem like you're in an auditorium, like you're sitting in.
Can it sound like that with your technology?
Yes.
Okay.